In Tasmania, we grow, cook and enjoy delicious food. We also waste it at an alarming rate. But there's good news. We can do something about it, and the solutions, they're delicious. In this series, we'll meet some incredible Tasmanians. They'll help us understand how waste happens. Guided by some of our state's finest chefs and passionate producers, we'll reconnect to where our food comes from, brush up on our cooking skills and learn to love our leftovers and discover the joys of living a low-waste life. Reducing food waste in the home will be an important part of meeting Australia's commitment to halve food waste by 2030. Together, if we all do our part, we can reduce our waste, become better cooks and eat well. Fighting food waste matters because Tasmanian food is too good to waste.
The day on the farm starts very early in summer, and if it's not, terrible weather, we can get out there and start working straight away. In winter, it doesn't really get light till about 8 o'clock, so there's no point getting out there, and it's freezing.
Oh, it's just so cold.
I'm Stan.
And I'm Bri, and together we make up Fat Carrot Farm, farming vegetables here in southern Tasmania.
We started farming here on Fat Carrot Farm about 8 years ago.
We knew we wanted to grow something, we weren't sure exactly what, but as we just expanded our vegetable garden, it became clear to us that we just really loved growing vegetables, and to be now here and doing it full time, both of us, is just like we've found where we want to be.
We're harvesting a lot, we have to plant a lot, we have to water a lot, and the weeds are growing as fast as everything, so there's a lot of work to do. So the carrots that we're harvesting at the moment, now at the end of May, they were planted in February, and they will probably last for another month, I would guess.
I think it's really not until you grow your own food that you have a proper understanding of what's involved. I mean, that's so different to going to the supermarket and buying your veg, and just to be able to go right to the start. And so you do get that sort of feeling like there's always a bounty. Yeah, it's no wonder that a lot of consumers don't have a full respect maybe for the vegetables that they buy.
So today we're here at the Barwick's receival facility for FOGO from the Southern Tasmanian Councils, and we'll be receiving between 10 and 15 truckloads of material into this facility today, ready to be sorted, decontaminated, shredded and then sent to our composting facility at Oatlands. My name's Justin Jones, I'm the Director of Just Waste Consulting, and I'm also the Organics Manager for Barwick's, who operate the composting facility here in Tasmania. And we're here to talk about food organics and the continual growth of that. So what we've got over here is a load of FOGO that's just been delivered. This is where we decontaminate all our material. Plastic bags is one of our big contaminants. So once it goes through this process of our decontamination, it gets put onto our shredder. But as you can see here, it's really about quality control. But here we make sure that we've got a cleaner product as we can before we send it to our composting facility. I've been in the waste industry all my life, set up my own company 16 years ago, and waste is increasing. Food organics is increasing. No matter what we try and do with diversion opportunities, it's increasing.
A third of the produce is wasted. Jeez, I didn't know that.
Jeez.
That's terrible. We don't waste anything here. You sure that's right? Well, if a third of produce that is produced is wasted, I'm devastated.
We just, can't bear any waste. And the people that we work with help us to find homes for everything, and we certainly make use of and preserve odd-looking bits of veg and things. It's really, I guess, because we've invested so much in every bit of vegetable, we want to make sure that it's used to its full potential. So, yeah, to hear that a lot of vegetable is wasted is just heartbreaking. Yeah.
I am pretty fussy about the food that I cook and that we eat, and for a long time we stopped going to restaurants because restaurants tended to be disappointing. They're either too fancy or they were too crap. But one time we did go to a restaurant in Hobart and it was a really good meal, and I was like, oh, this is one of the best restaurant meals I've had in a while.
Stan, if you've never met him, is very particular and will be very honest in his appraisal of what you've presented, and must have liked what they had.
So I made it my mission to work out who the chef was and introduce myself.
My name's Tom Westcott and we're at Tom McHugo's. I've been cooking for, I think, 11 years this year. Actually, no, it's more like 13. I lose track. I think in terms of venue, McHugo's is just relaxed enough, and it's a bit of a melting pot of cultures and industries of people coming in and really being able to just sit next to each other and still enjoy that classic pub atmosphere, but what they're given on the plate is certainly very different. Our approach to food has always been one of community. We definitely put the producers and the vegetables and the meat growers ahead of technique. That to me is the most important. You don't have a food culture in anywhere in the world that you don't have direct link to farming and to growing.
Stepping out of the shadow in my room.
How did you enjoy the Brussels today?
They literally just went into the cool room. I can't wait to use them though. Like every time I get them, I think you didn't grow them last year.
We didn't grow them. This is our first year growing them to sell.
It's always so hard to get hold of them in enough quantity to do anything with.
Yeah. So we have built up a good relationship with Tom, and it's been easier for us maybe to do it in some ways because I had a cooking background before I was a scientist. So it's easier for me to speak in...
And before you were a farmer.
And before I was a farmer. It's easier for me to speak in kind of chef language. And one of my favourite things to do with Brussels sprouts is that it's a classic northern French thing to cook it with chestnuts. I don't know if you can get chestnuts from anyone. I think Wouter's got chestnuts.
Yeah, Wouter's got chestnuts. Having a relationship with someone that grows and is as passionate as they are about what they do, it definitely makes you put the brakes on trying too hard.
He was someone that had similar values about food as me, and so we knew that we wanted to provide vegetables to him wherever he was going to work.
Thursday is our big town day. We do our harvest and deliveries and do all of our errands and end up back at the pub, pick up our crates and eat dinner there usually. And it's such a treat to go and sit there and eat, and our vegetables come out and they've been so lovingly, cooked and prepared. It's really lovely to sort of have that connection right through from growing it, delivering it, and then eating it as well, and being happy with that whole process.
It's just knowing that at this place people get it, that
they acknowledge and respect
that all the producers are part of the production team. They're all on board with the idea of using everything that we've got right now that's seasonal and minimising any of the waste, because they've come here and visited and they know how hard we work to grow it. They don't want to waste it.
Our approach here to dealing with food waste, which is always going to be something that occurs, any commercial situation develops waste. Initially when we started McHugo's, I thought we'll be able to compost everything, or we'll be able to return unusable vegetable matter to like people's chickens or their pigs, I looked into setting up a composting facility. And you know, just initial costs are like millions of dollars. And then along came FOGO and I was just like, oh my God, this is the best thing that's ever happened.
We're always going to need to peel the pumpkin, peel the potato. We'll always have an apple core. But the other issue is that we are purchasing and thinking that we're going to consume all that food that we make at our kitchens or when we go out for restaurants, we have the big meal. So it's the food that's left over is the big issue. And I guess for us as a community, but also for a business, we need to make sure that we're not wasting that food once it's prepared and ready for consumption.
I think a lot of people think you just plant a seed, water it, and off we go. There's lots of soil preparation. There's lots of other energy inputs, labour, intellect. And then you've got to deal with the fact that Mother Nature doesn't always let you get there. Knowing the grower and knowing the person that is growing the food for you will give you a better idea of the reality of that food supply and the limitations. And I think that informs the consumer to cook differently, to look at everything as being equal. Everything in its own right is the best it can be, as long as it's grown well, with integrity and I guess passion. Hi, I'm Luke Burgess. I'm a chef based in Hobart in southern Tasmania. Living here in Tassie, close to a lot of arable land and a lot of farmers, pretty much I guess to tap into the local food supply as much as possible and to know the people that are growing and catching your food for you is probably one of the most important parts of me cooking and living here in southern Tasmania.
These cabbages here have been in since March, and they'll go all winter. There's red, then the next one over is Savoy,
Yep.
and then Sugarloaf.
Yep.
So those are the varieties that
Well, I might grab some of the Caraflex today, I think.
Okay, great.
I can use all of that over the coming week. Some would be roasted, some would be pickled, some would be fried.
Wonderful. Like to see what early season tastes like
Well,
this year, you know.
should be interesting.
We started here in 1996, so I sort of got out of the viticulture business and started growing vegetables for restaurants. This was just dryland sheep area here. We've got irrigation now, so we can grow vegetables year-round. Well, growing food makes me feel wonderful. You know, I get out of bed every morning feeling good and thinking about it, and I've got young people here, and that was in a design to take me away from working on my hands and knees putting potatoes in boxes, because I'm not going to be able to do that at some stage. So I feel excellent about producing local food.
So my relationship with Tony goes back probably about 14 years. We hit it off straight away.
Well, without the chefs, you know, and there's Luke, we love the guy, and people like him coming out here. I may say to somebody like Luke, this will be ready in 3 weeks, and he may say, oh, I'd actually like to take some now, because I've got an idea.
And I think he gave me a sense, or a deep sense of understanding what it's like to grow vegetables, what it means to actually have someone make that commitment. And as I guess a reference to him influencing the way I cook, it's really honouring the heritage or the lineage of people who started this a long time ago. And just inspiring you to really listen to what they say, but also to feel so lucky to have them bring this to you and for you to showcase it in your establishment, for them to come in and eat it. So sit down at the table and look at like what they've spent, sometimes up to 8 or 10 months growing, appear on a plate in front of them. And I think that's a very satisfying moment. The moral imperative to my stance on waste is about the relationships. I think waste is part of living on this planet, which is how much do we produce. I think it's very easy to forget about it if it's externalised or out of sight or out of mind. But if you're always thinking about what you're putting in the bin and how you're putting it in the bin and where it's going, it's very easy to feel less obliged and more devoted to actually conforming to and sticking to that target, because it's a motivator as well. If you can work out the systems and make it happen, then it becomes second nature, and then it actually filters back down to the people that work with you. If you can give them the technique and the know-how, then all of a sudden it becomes very easy for that sort of moral guidance to just be normal behaviour. And I find that actually quite exciting.
I got into cooking to start off with because I wasn't allowed to leave home until I had a job, and I just thought the one thing I absolutely loved was cooking. Then I just realised it was something that I'd be doing for the rest of my life. Well, you started first, didn't you, Kirsten? The first female pastry chef in Tasmania, Kirsten was.
And Ainsty was the first female young chef,
Executive chef
in Government House. So we had that nice little thing between us. Hello, I'm Kirsten Bacon and I'm a foods and hospitality teacher.
And I'm Ainsty Wagon, I'm Kirsten's twin sister. And yes, I'm passionate about food. I think about it, I eat a lot of it, and it's a lot of fun. But having said that, we'll wash, shred them up, saute them with some garlic and olive oil, do the same as that, make a beautiful wild weed pie.
For both of us, cooking was such a big part. Food, preserving. We had a mother who had 7 children, and it was really, she had to save money, and so we grew up with that. So it was really a natural progression, wasn't it?
We grew up with a lot of pickling, preserving in every single way. But it was such an innate part of our life, and that's why I think so many of us have gone back into have gone into the food industry, really.
The food was such an important part of our whole community as a family, making the most of every single thing that we did. You know, when we grew a pig and we butchered a pig, we used every bit of it. So we grew up watching the pig's head go into prawn on the stove. We grew up with the blood being cooked for the black pudding. There was no waste in our house. You know, we weren't allowed to waste, and I think that's become a very important part of who we are today.
So why don't we make a nice gin and Tamarillo sorbet, and we'll do a poached, so hold on, better write it down, otherwise I forget. The thing is with food waste, it's an everyday conversation in the kitchen, really. I like it to be an everyday conversation, so people they don't think, what are we going to do? They just go, oh, we have to do this, or we will do that, and we have a lot of fun. I mean, sometimes the recipes do not always work, and I've got to be honest with you. But then, you know, we'll taste it and try it. Then people feel really invested in it, because I'll be in the kitchen with things and I say, come on, let's get up some ideas, we need some more recipes. It's this time of year, how can we preserve it for the next time of year? We do have a commercial kitchen, we do have professional chefs, and sometimes you can look at it from the outside looking in thinking, well, look, that's easy because you've got everything set up there. But we apply it to our households as well. So I know my chefs go home and do exactly the same thing with their children and within their family. I do the same thing as well. And it's equally as important in a commercial setting and a home setting. I've been heavily influenced by Kirsten is because not only is Kirsten a teacher, she's a great educationalist, and you can really see that with the enthusiasm and the hunger her students have to learn.
So basically we'll just, cut these up, making sure, I wonder if someone could get the FOGO bin for me. That is waste, so just pull that off, that little thing, and put it into the FOGO bin. I say to my students, I feel really blessed to be able to teach you, and I guess for me teaching is about giving them the skills to take this on into the future, to be the next leaders in food preparation, food wastage, food security, and I'm absolutely passionate about it. The one thing they will go away with is, they'll always remember that Kirsten said we must make sure we don't waste our food. All right, so you guys here, these are some of the leftovers I found in the fridge today. What I'd like you to do is cut these up sort of in just small, let's say a jardiniere cut. You can pop it into these jars here. I see them all so different, but all passionate in their own way. Exposing them to these sorts of opportunities and you know, that's where I sort of collaborate with Ainsty by bringing the students here, and they go into the pantry and they see these amazing preserves and then they come back and, you know, Ainsty gives them some bay leaves and they come back and they want to make something with it. And this is where we need to bring this back into our schools and, you know, make it a fun thing. My students give me hope for the future, the next generation chefs, and, you know, I think it's really important to champion Tasmanian food and produce.
Tasmania is a really special place to be given the opportunity to cook. We now have access to more local produce and more diversity in agriculture than we ever have. Day to day, it's quite difficult to manage people in the food industry to get them to realise that it's not just like their time that they're dealing with produce. You know, making too much of something or one pan burnt is, you know, people would kind of go like, oh, it's a mistake, things happen. The carrots that were in that literally took 4.5 months to grow. And all of the energy of someone else's time went into that. And it's like looking at it and saying, I don't value what you do as a grower. And to me, that is like the only reason that I exist, to be here, to cook.
We're at a point where we can pretty much have whatever we want. So we need to think about what we don't need to have and what's best to cultivate, and actually that we all need to eat to live. It's the primary focus of our lives, really, and to not be distracted by so many other things that stop you from participating in that process of growing or cooking or eating.
It's kind of intellectually interesting to work out ways not to waste.
Yeah, it's like it's a challenge.
Yeah, it is a challenge, and you know, I think people may feel like they don't have time to do that, but then I ask people, what do you do with your time? You know, do you want to have a really quick process of producing your dinner, you know, do it in 20 minutes, have a lot of waste, and then go and watch television, or just spend a bit longer thinking about what you're producing in the kitchen for your family to eat, making sure that it's A, it's nutritious, but B, that you're using up everything that you've got, and then go and watch television.
We make time for things that we care about, and food should be like paramount. We should care about that a lot.
I think a lot of people don't make enough time in the kitchen, and it doesn't have to be a chore, but the process of getting that food ready should be an enjoyable process, and I think that mindset has to shift, and then everything else will move with it.
The mindset of how you prepare and use food is something that you do need to learn, I suppose, or to teach yourself. And I think that's why it's really important to change our mindsets to make sure that everybody understands how food can be used to be, you know, to be something exciting and joyful and nice and a new recipe.
It's about remembering that we actually eat this food, and it's about enjoying the process of preparing it and consuming it.
Having an outlet or a resource created from waste, I think, is brilliant. But ultimately, the best way to not need that is to actually just pre-plan. Think about what you're going to cook. Deal with fresh produce and don't order too much.
It's a huge behavioural change that we need to get our mindset in. Even though the community has FOGO bins, we're still only seeing 5% of the food diverted into that bin. The rest is still remaining in the waste bin. So we've done some studies of late of 40% of the waste bin is still food, and that needs to actually come out. If you're going to throw it away, put it in the right bin.
For anyone who's interested in cutting down their waste or repurposing what they would consider waste, I think some of the guidelines you need to follow are, one, you need to consider what you can cook and what you would like to cook. So make sure you've always got a plan. When you go to the markets and there's stuff everywhere, or you see all these great ingredients and you're not sure how to cook it, maybe just buy one or buy two. Take it home, have a play, see what it's like. As we do in kitchens, once you get to know something better, you get to understand how long it takes to prepare it, what you need to do with it, and also guide you in what you will do with it.
I think taste is the big thing. Learn how to taste things and work what goes with that and what doesn't and so on.
So I think one of the biggest things too is learn some basics. So, you know, your basic pie, a good vegetable soup, a good puree, what you can do with those. So if they've got that, you know, basics like that,
Yes. Yeah.
then they've got something to bounce off and say, well, could we do this and could we do that?
You know, it sounds like super cliched. You just listen to the produce. Yeah, I know I'm not having a conversation with my cabbage in the cool room. When you have time pressure and you just apply, you know, minimal technique to cook something, literally just change it from what it is in its raw state into something that someone can eat and find that enjoyable. I think that's really is what's at the core of, you know, what we should be doing more of. But when you can take something that is generally looked at as being an inedible part of a plant or an animal and use cookery to transform it into something that is usable, then it really opens up the scope of what's achievable. You just have to have a little bit of desire to investigate.
The thing is with food waste, it's actually a brilliant and exciting problem to solve because it's actually a delicious way to solve a problem. I think it's really, really important that people, you know, that it gets acknowledged and it's all easy and accessible.
Food belongs on our plate, not in the bin.
As a consultant in the waste industry, we're always trying to strive and achieve a zero waste to landfill. So, you know, the joke is that one day I will be out of a job through my own doing, and hopefully that day comes soon.
I think a waste-free life is possible, and we certainly give it our best crack. You know, there are lots of simple things that you could do to have a crack at it, though. Yeah.
I don't even look at it like waste anymore. There's no such thing as waste. It's just energy in the wrong place. It's pretty brilliant. So I actually tell that to people in the kitchen, and you know, this isn't waste. We can do something with this.
I'm hopeful for the future of food in the sense that the world has probably never been in a better place to nourish and feed everyone.
I don't feel good about food being wasted, and I think that you do put a lot of effort into it, and to see things get thrown out. You know, there are other things you can do with it, so I hope people can learn those techniques, you know, full speed ahead.
We should really celebrate food grown in Tasmania because, yeah, it really is, it's too good to waste.